Can you see me? Can you see me? It's Zora Hype here with Secrets of the Citadel and our special guest, episode number 18 of the Citadel of HYPE Podcast. Gemma, holy crap, we're on episode 18 already?
Yeah, that's you asked me a couple of days ago, didn't you? You said, what number are we on? And I said, oh, probably like 15 or something.
You said 13.
Was it 13? And he came back and went, no, it's 18. I said, what are you asking me for then? Hi, guys. It's lovely to be here Friday night. Yeah, I'm Gemma from Secrets of the Citadel. You guys all know me. Lovely to see you all in the chat. Hi, Phil. Hi, Kyle.
Gemma, obviously, my co-host for better for worse. And Phil the Issues Guy, our special guest this evening. One of my favorite podcasters and YouTubers. What's going on, man?
Not much. Thank you for having me, Kyle and Gemma. I'm Phil the Issues Guy. Great to be here. Not to be confused with Phil the Tissues Guy. That's a whole different kind of guy. We don't want to get into that tonight, but I am excited to be here and to talk about this. This is going to be fun. And hey, chat, good to see you.
So, we've obviously all heard about the news last week. It was pretty big. We had a brief discussion, me, Gemma, LML, and In Deep Geek, briefly on our podcast last week when we were talking about some of our Ragnarok and Westeros stuff. But I think today, since Phil is so good at doing the live thing and doing podcasts, that we would kind of have a debate between the three of us. And we would talk about the Long Night, the Age of Heroes, and for our bonus patrons podcast, talk about Bran the Builder. So, Phil, what do you think about the news, man? It's pretty huge, right?
Oh, it really is awesome. It's something I was very excited about. My initial thoughts when I first heard about it wasn't what I was expecting, and I like that. There's a lot of places they could have gone, a lot of different times, a lot of different shorter stories, or just random thoughts that could have gone out there. This one really kind of took me aback at first because it wasn't something that I considered, considering everything that we're going to be dealing with at the end of the Game of Thrones series with the second Long Night, if you want to call it that, or whatever is about to happen this long winter. So I think it's really interesting, and it makes me excited to explore some more of some of the characters that we've known. I also think it's smart because there's going to be a lot of familiar names and families. So my initial reaction was really excited when I heard it. And I like how excited.
More of a positive than a negative reaction then?
Yes. I mean, there are some stuff, and we might get into that a little bit later, but ultimately, seeing how excited George R.R. Martin was for it as well in his blog post, everything it all added to it. You can feel a level of depth and texture to the visual television aspect of this that's going to happen here that a lot of people don't know from not reading this or reading a lot of other things and getting that kind of information. So so I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, same. Gemma, I mean, we've talked about it a little bit behind closed doors, and Phil showing the World of Ice and Fire, which has a lot of the characters and some of the history think is actually going to be shown. But your spin on it, Gemma, positive, negative, what do you think about it?
Positive, absolutely positive. Yes, I have worries and concerns, and we'll talk about that later, but my overarching feeling is just this is wonderful. I did say when they first originally even suggested, when they just put out the idea of prequels, I was championing the Long Night. We don't know if that's definitely the case because it's exceptionally vague, the descriptions that we've had so far. I mean, we've literally had like 2 sentences to work on. I've seen people do 20-minute theory videos on these 2 sentences, which is hilarious. So, which of course can be nothing but speculation at this point. I mean, we've got lots of options here, haven't we, for consideration? But yeah, I'm super excited. Who doesn't love a good origin story? Like Phil said, we know these families. So whether it was Lan the Clever or the Storm King or the Grey King or any of these heroes from the Age of Heroes that gets featured in the prequel, it's still an origin story of the families that we know and love from the current series, isn't it? So that's just super exciting all round.
And I think the most positive thing for me is that when I first started watching the show, I hadn't read the books originally, right? So that was after I watched the full first season, after I binged, I was like, wow, this is something that I'm genuinely interested in. I've always been a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and they had that kind of vibe for me, that, medieval fantastical realm that, I'd always like to dive into. And I think that it's a breath of fresh air that we're all going to be going into it blind. Like, yes, people like Gemma and Phil, they're going to know a little bit more than the average person than, about Bran the Builder or the Age of Heroes, but we truly don't know the actual setting. I mean, they're going to have a full 8 to 12 months to film the pilot, and then they're going to kind of go from there. But that to me is the most exciting thing about this news, the fact that all of us together, and you in the chat as well, are going to be able to kind of just go into it blind together, and that will create more of a positive environment. Gemma, do you think this is a better choice per se than like Aegon the Conqueror and his conquest? And there's actually been rumors floating about the rise of Khal Drogo was one of the choices as the prequels, which may or may not have been a good choice. So what do you think about that? Aegon the Conqueror, is the Long Night and the Age of Heroes a better choice than those two?
I think so, yes. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy the history of the Targaryens. I enjoy it immensely. I mean, who doesn't? It's crazy kings and queens and civil wars and dragons, and it's brilliant. But I just kind of feel that this Targaryen story has been hammered, and then we've got Fire and Blood, which is being released in November, which is another Targaryen history. The World of Ice and Fire was very heavy Targaryen. And what we do have to remember is that when we're covering Aegon's conquest and beyond, we're only talking about the last 300 years. And this is a world that goes back tens of thousands of years. There's so much scope. So I'm really glad that we've reached beyond the recent history. Khal Drogo, that would have been fun. I mean, prequels for days for me. Let's do them all.
Phil, I believe you have something special for the chat. Do you want to ask a question to the chat, Phil?
Well, at first, I just wanted to say I was hoping for the sexy adventures of the Red Viper. I mean, that's what I pitched at the spinoff panel. I want to see that. His early life, having sex with everybody. I think that would be excellently fun, and that would be amazing. But I think, and this is a question, I guess, for the chat and for you directly, Kyle, right now, and Jem, I'd love to get your take on this as well. With such a wide period of time, like the Long Night, Age of Heroes, it deals with such a long stretch of time. We hinted at this earlier. What kind of series would you guys like to see? Would you like to see it be more chronological or something maybe non-linear where they bounced around at a lot of different time periods? Ultimately, what would be your ideal situation to get through all this information? Would it start with the pack? Would it, or just kind of on the lines? I think I would like something non-linear and all over the place a little bit if it was handled correctly.
And I think we have some music for the chat while they give our answers.
Oh, okay. I thought that was later, but here we go. Yeah, we got so let's answer chat. What do you think? Scott says narrated by an old man, so something like that, more of a story being told by a maester or something like that.
Oh, so. Old Nan, Scott says. Old Nan.
Old Nan?
Oh, like the whole thing's a tale by Old Nan. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I want to. Sorry, go ahead, Gemma. I think I have the same thought. I popped into my head. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm exactly on the same page as well, Phil. I'd like to jump about. I'm not interested in the chronological order of things. There's just so many stories here to tell. Anybody that's just had a brief peruse through the World of Ice and Fire. I mean, I want to see a Shy. I want to see Old Geese. I want to see the rise of the Valyrian Empire. I want to see the Jade Emperor and the Tourmaline Emperor. I want to see Yi Ti. I want it all. I want everything.
Now, the thing about Old Valyria, too, Gemma, that you bring up is that, we think about it in terms of the Targaryens, but they actually were a small house in terms of the great Valyrian Empire. So we don't know. I mean, the Valyrian Empire had really, really done its thing for a while. So to be able to see that the Targaryens weren't even like a factor within that empire would be insane. And obviously the architecture and the culture, having more of that East versus West thing going on. Because I mean, mainly our story is set within Westeros, right? But yeah, it's really so interesting. One thing I kind of want, Phil, you said the jumping around. I've actually just been catching up on the show called Vikings.
Yes, great show. I've watched every episode of that. Excellent show.
I watched. I was completely behind on season 3 and 4, and I've caught up all this week on Vikings. I'm on season 5, episode 1, and when they did the time jump in the middle of season 4 to 4B, I was like, wow, I really enjoyed seeing the Ragnar's kids growing up and stuff like that. So I think that the Game of Thrones, they could pull off a little bit of a different formula, but I wouldn't be upset if they did, like, the linear thing that we see with seeing Bran and Arya and Sansa and Jon all kind of grow up in that decade of Game of Thrones that we've got.
And just as an alternate thing, in my dream, Travis Fimmel would have played Euron Greyjoy, Laura D in the chat.
Oh my God, he is such a great actor. I don't want to spoil.
Yeah, I don't want to go into much of a rant, but wouldn't he have been a much better Euron in an alternate weird way? I don't know.
His eyes, just looking at him. Oh my God, he's a beautiful human being. First of all, he's definitely a good looking guy. But in his scenes, like his facial expression means so much. Like when he's like lecturing his kid or something, he'll say very few words and he'll look at them and then they'll ponder and think and try to think more like Ragnar, and then they'll be like, oh, you have a point, and then they'll try to think for themselves because they're always trying to basically get his love, but he's trying to teach them to think for themselves, but his face usually says it all. You know what I mean? He's like telling them, he's like, no, you're an idiot.
We call him raggy eyes. Yeah, he gives them the raggy eyes, like just anyways. But yeah, enough Viking talk. Sorry about that, everybody.
But Vikings is a great show. And yeah, what are your thoughts on that too? So I guess, Phil, you're in kind of the same boat. Do you think the Age of Heroes and the Long Night is a good choice?
Yeah, I think it's a good choice, and I tend to be a little bit leaning more towards what I was saying, towards what Gemma said, where I would like, there's so much time they could play with, so many different parts of the age, have one section focused in the middle of the Long Night, one a little before that, or just in seeing it all, especially with the creator and the showrunner being someone who worked on Days of Future Past, which messes with a little bit of timeline stuff. I could see that's why she's maybe the perfect marriage for the impetus of the idea. Maybe I'm doing a little bit of fan thinking or hoping, putting a little pieces together that don't quite exist, but I'm hoping that's why she was chosen for this particular project, or part of the reason, because she did that so well in Days of Future Past.
Well, you know what's crazy too is I talked about this in my video last week about how X-Men has, the prequels. If we are going the Age of Heroes and the Long, we still have history. It's not all filled out, but the good thing is that Jane Goldman understands mythology, because the X-Men has a super rich feature of comics and stories and movies.
And she really brought it back with her touch towards the X-Men, where the X-Men was to bring those movies in. I think she did an excellent job at that. So great point.
Yeah, and the James McAvoy and the Michael Fassbenders, finding all that new talent too. That's going to be a thing too, right? Because we're so used to, Lena Headey and Kit Harington and these other actors and actresses killing it. Gemma, so what would be the one thing, the kind of the deal breaker that you would have to see for the Age of Heroes Long Night to be successful for you? Oh, Gemma's muted.
I'm back. Can you hear me? My microphone. Am I here?
Yeah, you're here.
Yes.
I'm here. Good. This is, of course, assuming that it will be the Long Night. Again, this is all speculation, isn't it? On this 2 lines of vague hints that we've had. And I think the line that has made everybody jump to the conclusion that we're going to end up in the Long Night kind of scenario is that it's something about dark times, a turn for the worst. I can't think of the exact quote right now.
It says Westeros, it has a darker future than we had imagined, so it's a different story than we think we know.
Yes, that's right.
Descent into the Dark Age, yeah.
Yeah, so descent into the Dark Age, yeah. I mean, that does sound very Long Nighty, doesn't it? The deal breaker, the thing I need to see, there's only one thing I need to see, and it's just 6 small words. Ice spiders as big as hounds. I need to see some emojis in the chat, guys.
I think you're ruining a later answer I have. And I think the other thing people are climbing to later, also about that, Gemma, is the fact, and Kyle went over this in a video, I believe, about in the George Martin blog post where he says his vote for the name of it would be The Long Night. But then he says HBO would most likely want to put the phrase, I have it open here, work in the phrase Game of Thrones in there as well. We'll know sooner than later. So I think that's also a big meatball laying there for people to gobble up as well.
I mean, just strategically, HBO. I mean, the Game of Thrones is now this iconic thing worldwide. It connects to so many different cultures. It's not just like a show like per se, like, you know, like Arrow, which might just be popular in North America or something like that. You know what I mean? Game of Thrones, you know, we have the Dothraki, we have Dorne, we have Issa, we have all of these, and culturally and ethnically and religiously, there's all sorts of different things going on within Game of Thrones that people can connect with, whether you want to connect with Melisandre and you like burning people alive, or you like a horse warlord and that kind of culture. It's there, and that's why I think it's so unique, right? I mean, to have the word Game of Thrones, it's just like Marvel, right? I mean, they've got what, 3-4 more spin-offs. I mean, Game of Thrones: The Long Night, Game of Thrones: The Age of Heroes, Game of Thrones: The Origins of the White Walkers. I don't know. But
Gemma also makes another point that I want to touch on. This is also, we're only a pilot that's ordered. It hasn't been ordered a series. George also says that in his blog post. Nothing's been ordered yet. This is still, we all hear like, yeah, but on what Kyle was saying, it has to be called Game of Thrones because the people that are watching our live stream right now, hopefully there's other people that get popped in along the way as well, but the people that are watching right now are hardcore fans of either the television show or the book series. We're the people that we're glad that these prequels and sequels are going to be made because they enhance the world. But for the people on the street that HBO wants to sell this to, it needs that paint coat of the Game of Thrones just to get people in the door. They need to know. And that's again why it's smart to pick this, because they're going to know the name. Well, not Land the Clever, but perhaps he might not be there. Whatever. We'll talk about that later. But Bran the Builder, the Stark House, we're going to see all these names or these people that we know, as Gemma was saying earlier. So it's important to kind of make people feel comfortable. And I think that's maybe part of the reason why The Long Night got ordered, because the White Walkers will seem familiar to people, and it will also expand on that as we, I think we're going to talk about that in a little bit too.
Yeah, that kind of aha moment, we think that we're going to get the reveals that we think we're going to get the story of the Bat King, Night King, and the Children of the Forest in season 8, but maybe even if we do get that, this is George R. R. Martin still getting that opportunity. And he said he's there as an advisory role, but it's still had that opportunity to say, aha, I didn't give you guys everything. This is the reason why you got to watch the show. And that is huge, right, Gemma?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been saying this for a while, haven't we? That we are obviously really looking forward to season 8, but we're also concerned that there's so much left still to tell. There's so many unanswered questions, and we have got 6 short. Well, they're not going to be short, but they're going to feel short.
Apparently, they're going to be longer. They're going to be about 90 minutes.
Even 90 minutes, even 6 times 90 minutes. No, not even close. So to forego some of the questions that we required answers from, and then be safe in the knowledge that it's okay, the prequels have got us covered. We will revisit this. So, instead of sort of thinking, but what about the so-and-so, and they never explained that, and that frustration that we were concerned that we would be left with, fingers crossed that the prequels will alleviate at least some of that.
Before we move on, we got lots more to talk about. Thank you everyone for joining us. We know the World Cup is going on, and it's summertime. Bless your heart if you're out camping. That's what I would be doing if I didn't have a job. But we got some super chat donations, and we want to do some shout outs in the chat. We have B1 Mary Starry Sky saying, jumping on the crazy train of long nights. Jumping on the crazy train. I know I can't sing. Yeah, Phil's a way better singer than I am.
No, different kind of singer.
Then we have J.R. Rowley. He said he's starting the Kraken train. And then we have John St. Baptiste reiterating there's a Kraken train going on in the chat. I guess because J.R. Rowley had mentioned that the one thing he wanted to see is the Grey King. and the Greyjoys and the Krakens expanded on. And that's actually what Gemma wanted to talk about for the podcast this week, but I said, no, we got to let our patrons vote.
I had a bit of a Mardy on, didn't I? I said, they voted for Bran the Builder. Can we just ignore the poll, or is this like not democratic? Because I really wanted to talk about the Grey King. And I'm like, oh, do I have to talk about Bran the Builder again? Please let us. And Kyle was like, nope, they voted. The people have spoken.
This isn't a democracy. This podcast is a dictatorship. They will do.
This is. Oh no! I was gonna do like.
And I also want to say, Pink Lash 007 in the live chat says Duncan Egg could be interesting. Duncan Egg, even though it said it would never happen, is kind of my dream scenario that it eventually will happen. I think it's just too soon to have associations with maybe too close to the storyline. So hopefully, maybe in 10 years or so, if these things are very much a success and HBO keeps producing them, we can hope for Duncan Egg at some point, because I do think that should be on screen, whether it's an animated form or a live action form, sometime in history. That needs to happen.
We got another donation. We said Whiskey Train. I don't have any available to me, but I am drinking Tiger Asian Lager, and I got a Sapporo. I got a can of Sapporo, but I will cheers, Phil. I think Gemma's taking a time out. Cheers, Phil. Cheers to you. Gemma's taking a time out.
I've got coffee. I drank a liter of vodka in the last 3 days. I think I need a night off.
Gemma and I got a little too buzzed the other night. So,
by the way, yeah, Gemma and Phil did a podcast the other night. By the way, everyone, just so you know, if you are enjoying this conversation, Phil, you can follow him on Twitter. You can support him on Patreon and go subscribe to his channel. The links are in the description of this video as well for Gemma as well. And we also got all the links to her channel, Patreon, and all that. So make sure you go support these awesome people that are.
You're only saying that to make me feel bad, aren't you? You look at all these lovely links that I've put in.
I know. Notice how he brought that up right when we were talking about the podcast. I think there was a little shade. There was a slight bit of shade going on there. I sense it as an impartial.
Just so everyone knows, I'm gonna take the wheel here for a second. But everyone thinks that Gemma is the organized one of the podcast. Fake news. It's actually me. So we're not even going to go there, though, because me and Gemma have this friendship thing going on. So we're ready to go. Yeah.
It's all true. It's all true. I am such a flake.
Speaking of guests, King McKay is coming on next week.
Ooh, nice. King McKay is the best. He's very good people.
And he's handsome. But back to our conversation.
I love to King McKay's brother as well. Sorry.
So Gemma, you mentioned this a few minutes ago. You're a little bit concerned for Game of Thrones season 8. Do you think that we're going to get enough of the Children of the Forest and the Night King? Does the prequels spell a little bit of doom for season 8 for us?
Well, this is the big question, isn't it? Because we just know so little about these prequels at this stage. A couple of people have asked me, are you going to do a video about this? I'm quite happy to chat with you guys and just kind of mull around some of these ideas. But as far as creating like a big theory video, I just don't think we have enough information yet. The Night King, and what my big question is this canon? I mean, and does it fit in with the world? Where are we at? Because we know obviously George R. R. Martin is very, very on board with the prequels, but from season 5 of the show and beyond, without getting too salty about the whole situation, I think it's safe to say that George R. R. Martin isn't necessarily on the same page, let's say.
The same things aren't going to happen at Hardhome as you think. Like, I mean, they're not going to be exactly the same as what you're saying, Gemma.
Yeah, I'm just a bit confused. I'm confused about timelines. I'm confused about canons. And I'm just hoping all of this will be ironed out before it all, goes, before we get it on screen properly, basically.
And I guess a bigger question too is when these series are coming, and these is a prequel series. This is a prequel to the HBO series, or is this another interpretation of a George R. R. Martin thing? I don't know if that's clear, and that is, or they're going to be something at the end of season 8 that is, Kyle mentioned this a little bit in passing earlier, a moment that happens that says, oh wait, because it's not going to be explored deeply, because I don't think it's going to be explored deeply in season 8, Night King stuff. I think we're not going to we don't have time for all of that. That's just one of the things they're going to skip ahead, especially now that this series has been, it gives them the opportunity to just yada yada it a little bit and just do a couple of little Easter eggs, so to speak, and lead into the next series. And I just hope that the Night King in the Game of Thrones series isn't much more than Solomon Grundy. Me, Grundy, me, take over the world and icy. I don't want him to just be that. I want him to be so much deeper, and we might not get that information till we see this series. And I think on some level, I've heard a few people talking about this, but on some level that is a bummer. And
Phil, going on this, you covered The Walking Dead, and I stopped watching it.
Don't remind me that I do that. Oh God, triggered. Sorry.
The last season was really bad.
Oh, it was
really. But the Fear of the Walking Dead is a great show. It's a really good show. I really enjoyed it. I actually enjoy it more than the regular show. Now, the thing is we know now, we see this in video games, these microtransactions and these DLCs. The same thing can be, the same kind of strategic element can be applied to television shows where they do the spin-offs, like you were saying. So I just hope they don't go that route. I think we need a huge payoff, at least with Bran, because if Bran's story, we don't get it with Bran's storyline, I'm going to be really pissed. Yeah. We need to get something about the Children of the Forest and the Night King. They don't need to give us everything, but they need to give us a huge reveal. Who is the Night King, man? Let us know, please.
Scott McCloy has been listening to or has been in contact with History of Westeros, Aziz and Ashaya, and the consensus is that the prequels will be show canon, but not book canon. Do you have a reference for that statement, Scott McCloy? Is that in stone somewhere? Because I'm not 100% sold. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, we're gonna live ignorant on this one for now until we see the facts in front of us. Because I'd like not to believe that always has to be the case. I'm not against doing that as well, and I don't want to make it seem I'm a hardcore. I'm a television person first. Like, television is the medium I love more than anything. I love to listen to books more than I love to read them, because I listen and learn from seeing and listening to things. But I love television, and I love what Game of Thrones is for television. And I want this to work. But I also want to be able to explore different ones of George R. R. Martin's Game of Thrones properties and elements of this universe, not necessarily in the canon on which Dan and Dave set up here at the end, which I think since season 5, since the Stoneheart divide, I call it, or whatever caused the rift that we can speculate about, at that point in time, and I think that was the inciting moment where he felt like my words don't matter here, so peace out. I don't even think it was about her. And I know I'm spinning webs here, but I think
no. I'm agreeing, man. I think there's some smoke. There might not be fire in what I'm saying, but there's some smoke in what I'm saying. Maybe it wasn't as harsh as some think. And he's just like, peace, I'm out. Bye.
Matthew Nash in the chat has just pretty much summed up my thoughts on this particular point. Isn't George working on the prequel? That makes it canon. No. And that's kind of where I'm at.
That's kind of my point too. It has to be his canon. If he's the main advisor in all these shows, and Dan and Dave are just putting money on it while they go in Star Wars.
Well, here's the thing. George did speak out, and he said it was very nice that he was being put in the pick. Like, he's like, listen, this is Jane's show. If the pilot gets snatched up, which is going to, Jane is way too talented for it not to work, and HBO is going to give her all the resources she needs. But he said, listen, I know you guys are putting me beside Jane Goldman. She's incredibly talented. I thank you for that, but I'm in an advisor role. But it does look like he did mention in his monologue that he had spent time with each of the writers in Santa Fe privately, and they had picked Jane, and she had been the one that was most involved with the mythology and the most she had made the most progress in her story, and they were the most interested in telling that specific story. So that's encouraging as to what we're talking about.
It's unfortunate for Game of Thrones, and then the last point on this, to just because I don't want to keep things down, but the last point And what's unfortunate is George has spent more time in the last year working with people working on these prequel series than he has working on the main series. And I know he has other things going on, but at least in that advisory role, it's a shame that even if Dan and Dave were going to do the lion's share of these seasons, it would have been great to have him as an advisor on every season, or at least get his stamp. And that's the cool thing about these prequel series, because it seems like each one, these writers, and because they're early on in and really impassioned by it, are getting his blessing and mixed with it. And I think that's great television. As he pointed out in those blogs, it's not like I've never done TV before. I think the one you're talking about, he ends up with saying, I am a TV writer. Yeah, I've done it before. He had a lot to do with some elements of Deep Space Nine influencing people there. And it's just, he loves television writing as much as, maybe not as much, but in his own different way as novel writing. So I hope if these series do get picked up, he gets to flex that muscle again, because he's good at it. He writes good television episodes. Look at the episodes he's written. They're some of the best of the series.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm in agreement, guys. I have to go to the Wall of Hype because V1 Mary has dropped 4 donations so far in the chat. We got to put someone on the Wall of Hype today. We haven't done that yet, but Gemma or Phil take over while I put some, and JR Rowley's got to go on the Wall of Hype too. He hasn't been on there in a while. But I'll let Phil take over since he's our guest. Sorry, Gemma.
Okay. So I will come back and I'll ask a question I think Kyle wanted to ask. Will we get a major shocking moment in season 8 with the backstory of the Night King and he's revealed to be a Stark? Now, we're going to ask this of the audience. And if the audience, heart emojis for yes and poop emojis for no. One more time. Will we get that major shocking moment in season 8 with the backstory of the Night King? And will he be revealed to be a Stark? Let's play some music and see what you guys think. Okay, well, we got a heart and a poop emoji. Heart brand. Lots of hearts. Definitely hearts. Lots of hearts. Kyle, I asked your question. What will the major shocking moment in 8 with the backstory of Night King revealed to be a Stark? Oh, we got lots of hearts. Oh, we got kitties. Tired kitties.
Do it again. Let's do it again.
Can't find poops. One more time when people are still deciding. One more time through.
Is the Night King a Stark?
We got a lot more hearts than poops. Whoa, that didn't sound right. But we had a lot more heart than poop here, guys. It's a hearty poop. Wait, what am I talking about? Oh, we got double duty. Double duty from John Haymaker. Ted Murphy's got some heart. Amy's got some heart. Elizabethy, lots of heart. Bran for sure. Todrick Stark. We got a lot of Todrick Stark there.
Todrick Stark. Oh my God, I can't even.
Oh my goodness. So I think most there is some poop in the live chat, but mostly there's heart.
To be fair, the poop was all John Haymaker, who was just repeating the poop.
Yeah, he was throwing so much poop in the chat that he just kept repeating it. Good job, John Haymaker.
We have some new people in the chat real quick. Helen O'Grady, just Chris. We have Jormungand, Ted Murphy, John Haymaker, Shannon, Heather Tubbs. We have Eldrick, Mary Jade Skywalker, Linda, Elizabeth. Thank you all for joining us. Sorry, Phil, go ahead.
Oh, no, that was it. I'm done. I'll pass it back over to Kyle. So I believe to ask a question about the mysteries of the East.
Yeah, let's talk about the mysteries of the East. You know, me and Gemma were debating this the other day. Will they split it up half and half? Because we know in the current story, Gemma, that we mainly got Westeros. We're focusing on the Starks and the Lannisters, and that's completely fine. Nothing wrong against that. But the most interesting segment of this whole mini paragraph that we got about the prequels of what might actually be in is like, will we see the Yeti, the Shadowlands, the Ashai, all of that? Are they really truly going to dive into that in the prequels? I mean, it can go anywhere, right? You think they're going to do it?
I have absolutely no idea whether they will do it or not. Obviously, no clue. What I do know is that I would love that more than anything. One of the things that fascinates me the most about this extended universe and this incredible world building that George R.R. Martin has blessed us with is the Bloodstone Emperor, the Five Forts, Ashai. What's going on in Ashai? It's got phosphorescent green rivers and ghost grass and mutant fish and black buildings and this. What is up with this oily and greasy black stone? I mean, there has to be some answers here, you know. And then we've got the whole moon meteors, lion of the night, the Church of Starry Wisdom. And then we can connect. So it's easy to say that this is far removed from Westeros. This is us moving to the east. But actually, and I've done a lot of theory videos on this, and I'm by no means the only one. But the connections between all of that was going on and what was going in Westeros, specifically with House Dane and Starfall and Dawn, the Sword, that there are definitely potential connections there. Yeah, really,
that,
and
Gemma,
about 30 prequels.
Imagine the Danes. That would be, I mean, the Sword of the Morning. Imagine that. The history of the Swords of the Morning, multiple Swords of the Morning. That could be a great series. These noble knights that, apparently protected Westeros. I don't know. That would be super interesting to me too, because we don't know a lot about the Danes in the show specifically.
Maria Kay. Oh, sorry. Maria Kay has just said in the chat, and it's a really good point. She said that the prequel is a great opportunity for new unknown actors, and you did touch upon this earlier on. I agree. I think I'm really excited to see, is this going to be new faces, or are they going to slip somebody like they did with Sean Bean, and there was the odd major star, wasn't there? And then the rest were kind of rising stars. So, yeah, that would be fascinating. We need to know which characters we've got first, though, don't we? And then we can start speculating away on who would fit.
Speaking of that, we actually have a bonus podcast after this for all of our patrons. Me and Gemma have started to do something. You guys know, if you're signed up even as a $1 patron, you get the bonus podcast from us. And you guys have been awesome. I've actually had 4 or 5 people like up pledge in the past couple of days. So thank you so much for that. But we have a vote every week now for our bonus content. We let you guys pick between Land the Clever, Durin's God Grief, Bran the Builder, and the Grey King. The Grey King came second, but Bran the Builder won out by like 20 votes. So you guys want us to talk. Speaking a little bit, yeah, go ahead.
Kyle, you're talking about all those great characters. We can't not touch on at least one of them here.
No, that's why I mentioned it.
No, I just want to interrupt. Like, I'd really love to hear your thoughts on Land the Clever. And as we look back in the time, being such a Lannister fan that I am, do you think that we're going to find, or again, it's more?
Was he really a Lannister? Did he?
That's my question. How much
into the Lannister line? Like, was he that clever that he took over the Lannister name?
Did he even exist? Do you think we're going to find out that most of the stories we've heard about him are BS, and that ultimately it's a lot more simple, especially in the case of the Lannister? What are some of your thoughts on how we're going to see Land depicted, if at all?
Well, this is another interesting thing going back to Vikings. Ragnar had so many failures as a Viking. Like, people looked like when they said his name, they called him out as a god. But then his sons were like, my father had many failures. And they talked about him openly not being a good husband and not being a good father and betraying them and abandoning them, that kind of thing. We see these, like Jaime Lannister is a perfect example of this character. He's so deeply flawed, but he has still that good in him that we want to root for. That's the kind of characters that I want to see. Are these characters truly that fantastical? Is Bran the Builder the Night King? Who knows? Like, maybe he was doing some really bad shit. Like, the history books can be super, super inaccurate. And even in the Not-a-Blog post, bringing it up, Bill, George brought up the Maesters and how he said, the time period, 8,000 years, that might have to be cut in half because the Maesters thought it was half that long. So that's kind of that interesting dichotomy. Like, will we find out that these characters are actually like how they are described? But then we see, obviously at the end of our story in Game of Thrones season 8, some of these characters have their, the mother of dragons, Daenerys, but she was still flawed. Jon Snow, the Night King killer, he was still super flawed. That kind of thing going on, but in the past, I don't know.
I think this is the beauty of picking this exact period in time, because all of the stories that, I mean, the four that we named, Bran the Builder, Land the Clever, Drown God's Grief, and the Grey King, they're kind of the main establishing founding fathers of these main houses, Greyjoy, Baratheon, Stark, and Lannister. And they very firmly, I mean, we're talking between 6,000 and 8,000 years ago, according to the timeline that we are aware of, which is looking a bit sketchy at this point, to be honest, isn't it? But by choosing this period in time, what you've essentially done is they've picked stories that are based on myths and legends. So really, they can just run with this. They can do anything, because these myths and legends have been passed down in world through oral tradition, hearsay, Chinese whispers, you know, how things get changed as they go down the line. And then they've been penned by the maesters. And what we always have to say when we look at the world of Ice and Fire is, yes, this is canon, but it's also subjective and open to interpretation. And there could be a lot of these details that are admittedly incorrect, such as timelines. So really, they can just grab the baton and just run with this. They can give us what we know. They can give us something completely different that we couldn't have even possibly imagined. So that this is what's really exciting about the Age of Heroes.
Yeah, such a great point. And when referring to this book, what I love most about it is the fact that it constantly reminds you that it's inaccurate. It constantly, there's notes on every line, especially when it gets into talking, or because I was just re-looking over Land the Clever before coming on here, and it's littered with these little notations ultimately that of like, we think, maybe, question mark. And I love that ambiguity because again, it allows someone from a television standpoint and from a story writing standpoint to not have to stick to any outline and can really be creative with the way we see things and the way they interpret how these things go. Kyle's mentioned Vikings a couple of times, but it's a good example because it deals with historical stories and the Viking stories that aren't necessarily facts. So it gave him gave the creator, I'm blanking on his name right now, the ability.
Michael Hurst, I think.
Michael Hurst, thank you. The ability to explore that time in his own with his own narratives while still sticking true to a lot of the important historical events. So,
well, you see, you know, the other thing that's really interesting is in the Bible, you know, we see what's going on in media right now. People misinterpreting the Bible and using it as fake news, essentially. But even in the Bible, it says to basically figure out things for yourself, even though I'm trying to teach you things. So that's that interesting thing, like see it with your own eyes type of deal, you know. And I think that's interesting. I think what we should do now is, since Gemma's back from her grabbing some vodka in her coffee, we should open up to the chat and let you guys ask some questions, since we have about 20 minutes left in the podcast.
Probably
me. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I said Bailey's goes better with coffee.
Yeah, you're right. We actually make homemade Baileys at Christmas time, which is
ooh, yummy.
They haven't created a vegan Baileys yet, so until that day, I will just have to sit that one out, unfortunately. Potatoes, vodka, I can roll with that.
Whenever you say potato, I don't know. It's just
potatoes.
Yes. Oh my god. Anyways, everyone, welcome to the last part of the third. I can't even. You know, I've known Gemma for years now. I still can't handle some of these words like plow on and potato. I don't know.
Oh, whoops, sorry.
Dick on. Actually, I'm going to be covering Vikings next year. I'm going to be covering so many different shows. I love Game of Thrones, but I'm you know, Phil the Issues guy is kind of the model for what you want to do. You want to cover all sorts of different shit. Okay, chat. Or Phil, you got a question for the chat?
Oh, no. My question for the chat right now is just let us know your questions. Let me look in there. Do you think we'll see young Nan? She's a favorite. Maria asks Kyle, do you think we'll see young Nan?
I mean, that's too recent. I mean, unless we think that old Nan was like 10,000 years old, which I don't think is a thing. No, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, she got a glamour and she's like a skeleton under? I mean, we saw glamored Melisandre. I don't know if I'd want to see that.
Could we see Melisandre in this series? That
would be crazy.
Young Mel.
If they did Dunk and Egg, we might see a young Nan. Melisandre, she's old, but I mean, and the jury's out, but I think it's probably no more than 400 years.
She's a baby. she's a baby.
There's a lot of
in her salad days.
There is some foreshadowing for her being the character you're talking about within Dunk and Egg. I don't know if I'm still sold on that, but I think it's definitely possible.
See if we get any more in the chat. Let me scroll through here.
Knackered, JRL Knackered is another one. Random non-Game of Thrones question for Philly Issues guy. Where do you get the DS9 poster stand?
I think I got it on overstock.com. It was really cheap at the time. I bought it around the holidays a couple of years ago. I was looking for some sort of giant Deep Space Nine poster for the back of the room, and that just happened to pop up on a search. I was like, oh, I could get one of those, and then I could get naked on one side of the room, on the other side of the room, and with the same person, and be really kind of creepy. And then I could hang out with my favorite girl, Terry Farrell from Back to School. Yes, she's the girl from Back to School. That's right.
Actually, believe it or not, I got the inspiration for the Wall of Hype from Phil, because he used to, back like a couple years ago, he used to put Patreon's names on this little.
Yeah, I got it. Bet you can still see it in the back.
Oh, still back there. It's the Wall of Fame. Okay, I wasn't sure.
Now we get a question: is there a connection between Cold Hands and the guy that gets Dragon Glass in the heart? We assume is the first Night King at Azor Hype.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's certainly interesting. I mean, they said, and you know what's really interesting is that Cold Hands, brings Bran and them to the cave. He could have nefarious undertidings, like he could be trying to work something in. But I mean, it's possible that the Children of the Forest, that's kind of like their agent. It's their Benjen. Now, is that actually Benjen? I don't think it is in the books. I could be wrong though.
John Haymaker, just sorry to quick interruption on that. John Haymaker has the perfect name for the Old Nan prequel show. No Country for Old Nan. I think that would be perfect.
At the end of the podcast, we'll do 5 minutes and you guys can come up with prequel names for the actual show. Gemma, though, you have some pretty sweet Cold Hands videos.
Yeah, I've looked at Cold Hands quite a bit, and what everybody always comes back to is the annotations, the conversation on the original manuscript between the editor and George R. R. Martin. The editor wrote, "Is this Cold Hands?" And George R. R. Martin replied, "No."
No, so, with an underline too. I think
that was a real fast reply. It was like a definite no.
Yeah. So, but then people, of course, are still insistent that well, he meant metaphorically because he's not Benjen anymore. And
someone messaged me the other day and asked me if Ned Stark was still alive. Let's just put it that way. I mean, people think, I don't know.
The Night King was the Night King brought Ned Stark back one. I've heard
that Ned was just straight up alive he switched places with like Varys helped them escape and shit.
I'm sorry to hijack things, but we have 2.5 Nans a Nan apart. I'm sorry, Billy Old Madison. Oh my goodness, a lot of good ones.
I already won Game of Heroes.
But we get a couple of other questions. This is from, I think, Logan Smith. Isn't Lan the Clever supposed to be from the East? If so, could he be a POV character over an Essos? There are rumors that he might have been an Andal. I believe there is a theory or discussions that maybe he was an early early scout of the Andals of some sort. But what do you think? His
story kind of mirrors Littlefinger a little bit,
a little bit,
like a tiny little bit of what like Littlefinger was. Gemma's joined the call twice. I don't know what's going on here. I'll kick out Gemma. I'll kick out the other Gemma. No, yours okay. Let's kick out the other Gemma. Never
get out of here, other Gemma. What's that other Gemma ever done for us? We have the real Gemma here.
I just muted the other Gemma. So Gemma is doubly on the panel now. She's here in both the spirit realm and the regular realm. I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, he could be.
And this is from Elizabeth. Are we going to start looking at good people as bad and vice versa? Just in general, like looking back on
House Stark, I guess. I mean, House Stark in a more negative way.
I don't know. I think there's a chance we may talk about a little bit more in the bonus stuff, but I think this.
By the way, we have a Gemma sandwich right now. She's actually right in the middle, and I'm sure she loves me. She's like this purple icing in the middle of me and Phil.
I'm not sure how comfortable I am with the concept of Gemma sandwich.
I know. I think Kyle meant it. I think Kyle meant it innocently, but my dirty mind went to something else.
My dirty mind did too.
I apologize, Gemma. I don't think Kyle's mind is quite as weathered and dirty as ours are, but I think.
No, what do you get? Like Gemma's like my best friend. What the hell? You guys are
bad. Yeah, but you did say we were sandwiching her. I mean, you did basically just say that.
Like I was just gonna say that me and Phil kind of look like two white crackers, and Gemma is the icing in the middle. I don't know. I mean,
wow.
Everyone in the chat's mind also went there. No, long night for a title.
Slow clap for Kyle, I guess. I don't know.
No. I don't think that was your intention, but I think at least 50% of the chat went to the dirty thought.
I'm putting myself in a self-muted timeout for 2 minutes. I'll be back.
Oh my goodness. Let's see. We got a couple more. Let me read a couple of the titles for the Nan spinoff. Nan on a Ledge, Game of Thrones, Age of Heroes, Nan at War. We got 2.5 Nan, The Red Man of Courage. I apologize if I suddenly disappeared because I fell asleep. Oh, no worry, Mama. And thank you to everyone in the live chat. Kyle will be back on in a second, but we do appreciate all of you guys as we're starting to sort of get towards the end of this cast. So if anyone has any last questions, now is the time. Are women going to be more prevalent in the prequels? I want to see better female writing for characters, says Scott. Gemma, do you have any opinions on that?
I hope so. Basically, but it's a very masculine world, isn't it? Somebody said earlier on, when we were talking about Lan the Clever, I hope Lan the Clever turns out to be a woman, and I just thought that would be awesome. That would be absolutely awesome. You know, if these legends had been twisted to the point where even the genders had been changed, yeah, I love that idea. I would be really on board with that.
Yeah, and a few more. The Nan identity, old Natterday night, long night. I'm sorry, old Natterday long night fever, being John Nanovich.
Wait, old.
Felicia, this is how you make me do it.
Nanny, as in a nanny, like Wally Nanny.
Nanny, or the sun will come out for old Nan. Or I thought you meant more than nanny for like Annie Nanny.
The Nan identity. I like that one.
That's a good one, like the Born identity.
Yeah.
Nan the Clever. Yeah, of course. That was a must. Someone has to say Nan the Clever. Victory, Felicia. Yes, you got me to read your comment.
Oh my goodness. This has been really fun.
And I guess one more real comment. Logan Smith says, House Stark has plenty of ways they could be shown in a negative light. They were pretty brutal towards wargs and marsh kings. They forced the princesses of their enemies to marry them. So do you think this is going to change people's opinions of some of those founding families, like the inherent trust of the Starks or distrust of the Lannisters, Kyle?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, we didn't get much based on what they wrote, but it said the darker history of Westeros and then followed it up with the Starks of legend. So I don't know if that was intentional to have that directly follow the this isn't the story that we think we know. So, I mean, but it is. But I mean, even last season, the visual foreshadowing, does it not look when they're panning over like all the White Walkers, that looks like a House Stark sigil, a wolf? I mean, all the army of the dead. I mean, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, especially when you see the freeze frame of that, it definitely does look like a wolf. Michael Smith asks, and this, I'll throw this to Gemma, do you think we'll see old Valeria in the prequels? And I know it's just putting on your Miss Cleo hat, but I'll change the question. Would you like to see old Valeria in the prequels? Gemma is muted at the moment, so I will speak.
She's so offended by our sandwich.
She hates you, Phil. She says, Phil, damn you for asking me this stupid question. You're back. I'm
back. Yeah. Just before I do answer that question, the prince that wasn't promised has got the Nanchurian candidate, which is brilliant, and Zen Gross has got God of Nan, which I love these.
God more, yeah.
What was the question again? Sorry. Old Valeria. Yeah, old Valeria. Yes, I would really love. I'd really like to see how that kind of came about, because the story goes is that they were just kind of like sheep herders just romping around hills and stuff, and then one day they just happened across a load of dragons, tamed them, and became awesome dragon lords. I mean, there's certainly a leap there that's not explained. So, you know, how did that happen? Basically, that's what I would like. So the very beginnings, the origins of the Valyrian freehold would be phenomenal. I would love that.
So many great names in there. Pinklash asks quickly, do you guys think that the books will basically end like the show? I mean, I think there'll be obviously be some key points that are similar, the ultimate conclusion, but it's going to happen very different ways. And I don't even know at this point. I know George says the show does not influence him, but who knows? He might completely pull an end around and change the way it concludes.
If he ever finishes the books.
If he ever finishes the books. A Song for Spring, everyone keeps talking like Winds of Winter's the last book. There's still another book.
Yeah, I know.
They might split Winds of Winter into 2 books.
Yeah, and they're talking about that Winds of Winter might be so long it's 2 books. And I like to imagine in my fantasies when I'm a young idiot, like, you know, like a young kid that has all these, like, oh my God, Santa Claus is real, blah, blah, blah. I'm imagining he's writing both at the same time, that he's taking this extra time to write
Magical both. Christmas Land is called.
So my magical Christmas plant that I'm praying to right now, that is wishing he's writing all of this at once, and it's taking this long because he wrote both books. But I'm just being a dummy right now. You big dummy. I'm just a big dummy right there. That's not really happening. That's as Kyle says, fake news right there. I mean, I'm wanting that better, more than it's an actual reality. But
my God, the Chronicles of Narnia. Oh my God,
12 years of Nan, or the Nan scrolls.
You guys are hilarious.
Nan 4, Infinite Nan.
The passions of old Nan, like the passions of Christ. Thomas, what are you?
A game of Nan, Hill Street Blue-Eyed Giant. That's not a bad one. That's not a different sort of thing, but Hill Street Blue-Eyed Giant.
Nan 000 BC.
You guys are hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
He says, I'm convinced that George is writing both books consecutively. I want to believe that. I've delusionalized, if that's a word, it is now. I've delusionalized myself to believe it right now, but I don't think so. I don't think I don't really believe it. I want to believe it. I want to believe you, Misty. I want us to come out here 2 years from now and hear that and have that be a reality and say, yep, but Kyle's about to bash our dreams, and he's right. He's right.
50 Shades of Nan. Oh my God.
No.
Oh fuck.
I will read it, Misty.
Taught me to swear live on stream. Demonetized.
Misty, email me at igotissuesman@gmail.com. A link to your blog theory. I would love to read it.
But yeah, I mean, so we got you know, the chat. You guys are awesome. This has been really fun.
War in Nan, Ghost in the Nan, Ask Nan. It's so great.
Repo Nan, War in Nan.
This is a good one. John Taylor, Nant Man.
Okay, that's the last one I'm listening to. Final thoughts on the prequels, guys, before we get into our bonus podcast for patrons.
Well, my final thoughts are, I'm just really excited that it's actually happening, and it's going to be on. We're not going to have to deal with another year without Game of Thrones on television. As much as you can bash television executives and HBO, the way HBO is planning this out, and the way that they're setting this up, and they're going to probably shoot a couple pilots, and who knows? I think they're going to probably shoot the pilot sooner rather than later, get that going, and try to get this process happening so that it's not another year break without another episode of Game of Thrones from the conclusion until the beginning of this prequel series. I'm excited about it, and what I only hope, and the only thing I hope, is an overall theme that HBO, if this gets ordered to series, that they let this series build in the way that they let Game of Thrones or other great series on HBO build. Don't try to hit a home run right away, because you need to keep that audience in. Better Call Saul's done this exceptionally well. It doesn't try to recreate what Breaking Bad did. It's worked hard over these 4 seasons or leading up to this point to build its own audience on its own merits. A Game of Thrones prequel series needs to do the same. All of us are coming, but we need to make new casual fans. We can't just try to appease the people that want more.
Bob Odenkirk, I mean, oh my God, he's one of the best comedians in the world. So they're super lucky to have him. But still, you know, I think you're on the right track, Phil. I think they need to create. Yeah, and Maria Kay, I wanted to point this out. She had a really great comment. She says, I didn't read much about the prequel, so I didn't know the time period. I mentioned Nam because she had a lot of info on the characters that the characters that were ignored. Yeah, and you know what? That's kind of the beautiful thing about it. Like, you know, Gemma might be an expert on the books, but she might get super surprised about the Age of Heroes and the Long Night. Like, yeah, we're not really experts. We're addicts, guys. Okay, we're addicted to this stuff. But I think that all of us going in blind together is a super positive thing, like Phil was talking about. Gemma.
Yeah, I mean, all I can do really is echo the really excellent points that you've both made on that. I have nothing but excitement and joy for more of this wonderful story in any which way it can be told. I like I said, prequels for days for me. I want it all. I want everything. I want the whole. I just want them to take every single chapter from the World of Ice and Fire and do a year's worth of prequel on each one of them. That would keep me going. It's more content for us to continue to nerd out about, more things to speculate on, more theories, more exposition, more histories and lore that we can add to what we thought we knew. It's just excellent all round. I just hope it isn't shit.
And I think, you know, I think I can speak for all of us on the panel here. You know, we all got to meet at Con of Thrones this year. And, you know, me and Phil had been speaking for 2 years, and me and Gemma have been speaking for quite some time, too. And the good thing is that, you know, if they do this for 5 or 6 or 7 more years, you know, we're going to have all of this time to still hang out together and get to know each other even more, become even better friends, and get new people in our communities and meet new people and go to more events like Con of Thrones, and, of course, be shocked and amazed by what kind of stories they're going to be telling. So I think the commonality through, no matter what kind of story they're going to tell, it's going to be a positive thing. All of us going in blind together. The fact that we get to enjoy more Thrones, that's a super positive thing.
Yeah.
Phil, what are you laughing at, my man?
I'm looking at all these. Nan in the middle, Golden Nan.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Nans. Oh my God.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Nan, Stand By Your Nan, and Pink Lash. You're awesome at this. Nan in the middle is amazing. Nan and the Fat Man. I'm sorry, I don't even want to hype my stuff. I don't want to tell you guys, if you want to find me, you can find me on Phil the Issues Guy on YouTube, or you can find me on Phil the Issues Guy podcast. You can find how to help out the channel in the links in the description box below. Follow me on Twitter at I Got Issue Man. I don't want to do that. I want to use my time reading Jake and the Fat Nan. I mean, that's all I want to do. Like, forget pubbing myself, Kyle. Can I just waste this time?
Yeah, go on for a straight minute, Phil.
Okay. Oh no, I think I read all of them. Old Nan does Dallas. Debbie does
Dallas. No.
I'm gonna end on that one. Oh wait, Peter Nan. Kyle doesn't get to hear Peter Nan.
God! What the?
Blade Nanners. I like that one. That's a good one. The Invisible Nan, the Nanas. Okay, I'm done.
That Old Man does Dallas.
I gotta go back. I gotta scroll up with them. They apologized. In fairness, they said sorry afterwards. Where was it? It was Tubbs. It was Tubbs.
Tubbs, you're going on the wall pipe. That was epic.
Tubbs, the big Nan theory. Okay, so Tubbs is going on the wall as I'll pass it over to Gemma so she can do all.
Pass it to me now.
No, I'm not gonna pass it to her. I'll just talk then. I'll just keep babbling and going. And you know what we'll do? Actually, we're gonna play the Jeopardy music again. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna play the Jeopardy music again. We're all talking about driving Miss Nan. When the music's done, we're done. Old Man Nan, desperately seeking Nan. 2 Nans, 1 cup. Big Nan. Okay.
No, who did 2 Nans, 1 cup?
Zen Gross. Grumpier old Nans. The Nan with the golden gun. Nanomaniacs. I can't say Titanic. Titanic.
Wow.
We'll end on that one.
1 cup, Zen Gross. That was a foul ball, man.
Any which way but Nan. Oh, you guys gotta stop. Nanny Nana Boo Boo. Diary of a Nan friend. Okay, I gotta stop. Okay, last one.
Nan of the Rings.
Okay, Nan of the Rings is a good one to stop.
Everybody go follow Phil the Issues Guy on his channel. Phil the Issues Guy. You can subscribe. Links are in the description of this video. You can follow him on Twitter as well. He's super active. He follows a bunch of different shows. Does live Westworld. If you're into Westworld, he does live after shows right after the show. Same with Game of Thrones, Vikings, all sorts of awesome movies.
Also got talking about Cobra Kai, and we got Better Call Saul coming in August as well. So make sure you check us out or check out my brand of silliness. And if you enjoy it, stick around. And thank you so much to Kyle and to Gemma for having me.
And he also goes back in time and talks about Sopranos and Deep Space Nine and stuff like that.
I thought you were gonna go that I go back in time with my buddy Bill S. Preston Esquire, and I'm gonna be in Bill and Ted 3. Like, dude, totally. I thought you were going there, but I like where you went. Thank you. Yeah, we do go back in time and talk about that. We're gonna be doing a Cheers review for Joe's cousin coming up next week. He's been bugging Joe and I to talk about Cheers for a while, so we're gonna be doing that for Jacob. And so yeah, lots of random shows. Nothing cannot be requested, so always join us live. We got a live call-in lines, so you guys can call in during the show and all that fun stuff too. So again, thanks so much, and hopefully I'll see some of you guys.
Gemma,
I am composed-ish.
she
Wow.
My cheeks are actually hurting right now.
You guys, that was a super giggle attack. This is why I love doing these live streams. You know, we can just bang on for an hour about any old crap, but what I really love is just reading the chat and seeing you guys in here. So thank you. You really do make these live streams. You know where to find me. Links are all down there because Kyle is way more on it than I am. It's been emotional. Thank you.
Look at the background. Gemma has or Blaze Manga print in the background. By the way, if anybody likes Blaze Manga, description of this video as well. They do all the art for this channel. They are awesome. Final thoughts, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. You guys were amazing in the live chat. I know some of you took a little bit of time to get here, but those of you who are, go check out the whole stream. It's really funny. We really, really appreciate all your input, all the donations. Thank you. And of course, everyone who supports this podcast, we really, really appreciate that. There's been some new patrons on the channel. I'm up to 114 now, and Gemma's like almost at 200. So thanks, Tubbs, for that late donation. Thanks for everybody that supports Phil's channel too, and anybody that came over from Phil's channel. Anybody that's going to be watching us later, we really, really appreciate it. We got 18 episodes now in the books, and next week we'll have King McCain. Then for the 20th episode.
Woo!
I don't know. I don't know who we're gonna have, but it's gonna, you know, maybe we'll have one of our friends on.
We need to get James from Dust on the Throne on.
Yeah, I messaged James. I don't know what's going on, but he said he'll get back to me. Okay. So but thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Like I said, you want to check out Gemma or Phil, all their Twitter, Facebook, all that. Subscribe to their channel in the description of this video. If you want to support this channel, help me get the Worldcon. Yes, I'm going to see George R. R. Martin speak in person. You want to help out with that? Go find me, Patreon, in the description of this video. We will see you all in another one. Thanks for joining us. Phil, you want to do a hype and love with the Jeopardy at the end here?
Oh, let's do the Jeopardy theme. Here we go. The theme song of the episode tonight.
Hype and love.